Hi, it's Katrina. Nineveh. Nineveh was an ancient Assyrian city situated on the outskirts of Mosul in what is now Iraq. It was settled as early as 6000 BC during the late Neolithic period. By 3000 BC, Nineveh had become a major religious center dedicated to the Mesopotamian goddess Ishtar. The walled city was built along a fault line and experienced numerous earthquakes, including one that destroyed its temple to Ishtar. Despite these occasional setbacks, Nineveh became a major learning center and functioned as the capital of the Assyrian Empire for much of its existence. It grew to include parks, aqueducts, canals, an 80-room palace, and a library that housed 30,000 clay tablets. People lived there continuously for thousands of years. In the 50 years leading up to 612 BC, Nineveh was the world's largest city. That year, a coalition of allied forces sacked and razed Nineveh. The intruders massacred many of the city's residents and deported others to the countryside. Nineveh never recovered from the destruction, but it wasn't fully abandoned. In the centuries following the attack, the city fell under the rule of various civilizations, including the Seleucid Empire, the Parthian Empire, the Sasanian Empire, and finally the Arabs. By the 13th century, Nineveh was reduced mostly to ruins. Today, the site consists of 2 large mounds and the remains of the city's massive stone and mud brick wall that was built around 700 BC. Sadly, what's left of Nineveh is losing its battle to the elements, looters, and the Islamic State terrorist group, which threatened to eliminate or destroy any remaining evidence of its long and rich history. The first bone tools. Archaeologists have recently discovered the earliest known bone tools anywhere in Europe. These tools come from the Boxgrove archaeological site in Sussex, England. These ancient implements were made out of the bones of a horse that was butchered by ancient humans for its meat. Archaeologists found flakes of stone piled up around the dead animal, suggesting a group of about 8 people were cutting it apart with flint knives. Archaeologists also found evidence that other people had been present during the carving, which has led them to believe the butchering of the horse was part of a group activity. Everyone came together to divide the horse up like a pig roast party or a luau. But there wasn't just a single stone tool found here. Archaeologists uncovered hundreds of them, along with plenty of animal bones, all of it dating back 500,000 years. That's right, these tools are 500,000 years old, the absolute oldest ever found in Europe. They were crafted by a race of hominids known as Homo heidelbergensis, who are not only our ancient ancestors, but also the ancient ancestors of our other ancient ancestors, the Neanderthals. According to Dr. Matthew Pope, the archaeologist in charge of the dig, the discovery was as close as we have ever gotten to witnessing the play-by-play movements of such an ancient group of early humans working together in a very social way. Also, the researchers managed to reconstruct the exact kind of tools that were used. The tools were extremely basic and carved from the horse bones, as well as some knives made of flint and some hammers made from rock. Ancient capital of kings. Between the 14th and 19th centuries, Inwa, also called Ava, was the imperial capital of the Burmese kingdom. Located in modern-day Myanmar's Mandalay region, it was sacked and rebuilt several times as leadership changed. This was the seat of the mighty Burmese Empire. Inwa was founded on an artificial island in the 1300s and then spread out from there. The ruler of the time ordered canals to be built to connect rivers and swamplands together, so he could make an island citadel based on its strategic location. During the Ava period between the 14th and 16th centuries, the city was the capital of Upper Burma. As a major intellectual center, academics and philosophers flocked to the site. In 1511, an exquisite golden palace was built here. But the Ava period was not all smooth sailing. Inwa fell under siege during the 40 Years' War in 1405. And in 1527, the city fell to numerous invaders who would come and take over. It was constantly getting recaptured and rebuilt over the years. During the 16th century, Inwa became the capital of all of Burma and served as the headquarters of the efforts to unify the kingdom. But the city's glory days came to an abrupt halt in 1753, when enemy forces burned it down. Reconstruction began nearly a decade later in 1764, and then once again in 1765, Inwa became the capital. It subsequently served as the capital during the 19th century. In 1839, a series of devastating earthquakes hit the region, leaving Inwa in ruins as tremors continued in the aftermath of the destruction. Buildings were leveled, and people and animals died en masse. This marked the end of the city's existence, and a few years later, the capital was relocated for good. There are a few remaining areas of the once powerful capital, including the city's brick walls and a tower. Unfortunately, what's left of Inwa does little to capture its former magnificence. Civilizations in space. In a shocking new study, scientists say they have made a discovery of ancient civilizations in our very own galaxy. Scientists used astronomy and statistical modeling to map the emergence and death of intelligent life in our galaxy. As part of the search for extraterrestrial intelligence, the team from Caltech was trying to create a model of possible life spread throughout time and space. What they didn't anticipate was to accidentally learn that whatever civilizations existed on other planets have probably already annihilated themselves. The authors of the study looked at a few key factors, such as stars like our own sun and planets like our Earth, as well as the frequency of deadly galactic occurrences, such as supernovas. They then factored in the probability that intelligent life would evolve under the right conditions over a certain amount of time, then added the unfortunate tendency of advanced civilizations to implode upon themselves. It turns out the probability of civilizations emerging peaks about 13,000 light-years from the galactic center of our galaxy, at a time 8 billion years after it was formed. To compare, our planet is 25,000 light-years from the center. To put this in simple terms, the scientists concluded that other civilizations probably did exist in our galaxy, but they've already shot themselves in the foot and vanished. They say other civilizations could still exist, but they are likely very young. Our galaxy reached its civilizational peak billions of years ago, so those hoping for a Star Wars-like future might have actually missed it. What do you think about civilizations being found in space? Do you think other societies really did emerge and then destroy themselves far away in the galaxy? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. The Oxum. The Oxumite Empire was an African kingdom that spanned modern-day Eritrea and northern Ethiopia, as well as parts of Djibouti, Somalia, and Somaliland. It rose to power around 80 AD and met its mysterious downfall in 825 AD. The Kingdom of Oxum was a major player along a commercial trade route between the Roman Empire and ancient India. It used its far-reaching power to influence politics and societies as far away as the Arabian Peninsula across the Red Sea. Oxum was also the first sub-Saharan empire to mint its own coins and adopt Christianity. During the early 7th century, the Oxumites stopped making new currency. Around the same time, residents were forced to flee inland, where they sought refuge on higher ground from some sort of upheaval. The capital was abandoned and resettled at an unknown location. The Oxumite Empire is one of the least documented civilizations. Historians know little about it, and the reasons for its collapse are a mystery. One theory suggests that the Oxumites became economically isolated as other civilizations came to dominate the Red Sea, and that this triggered their downfall. According to legend, a Jewish queen named Yodit, or Judith, ordered the burning of Oxum's Christian churches around 960, but many historians question whether this story is true, or if Judith even existed to begin with. Another story claims that a pagan queen from a rival tribe was responsible for ending the Oxumites' power. Climate may have also been a factor. During the 1st century, it rained more than usual, increasing the region's food supply. But there was a huge population to support, and it's possible that the land could no longer handle the intense farming that was required to keep people fed. The cliff-dwelling Anasazi. The Anasazi people, or the ancestral Puebloans, are famous for their entire villages or pueblos built into cliffs. They lived in what is now the current Four Corners region of the United States, most famously Mesa Verde and Chaco Canyon. The name Anasazi actually comes from the Navajo Indians and loosely translates to mean enemy ancestors. This ancient Native American civilization lived in sandstone dwellings carved deep into secluded canyons. The ruins here are in abundance, with many saying that the Anasazi were one of the greatest Neolithic civilizations anywhere in America. To this day, there are still giant towers left over and huge ceremonial chambers with ceilings that weigh up to 90 tons. They could only be reached by climbing and were fortified against enemies. They created roads and irrigation systems for watering their crops and used colorful pottery, woven baskets, and sandstone to decorate their homes, greatly influencing what Southwest style means today. The Anasazi civilization lived in this area for over 1,000 years, but in a single generation, they were gone. Between 1275 and 1300 AD, they stopped building entirely, and the land was left empty. They are often compared to the Maya in the sense that they were an advanced civilization that was prosperous, healthy, advanced in arts and science, and nobody knows why they disappeared. Scientists have no idea where they went, why they abandoned their capital, or what kind of unseen force may have played a part in their great exodus. The theory is that an extreme drought hit the desert area and they were forced to leave. Looking for the rain, it is rumored that they headed south, leaving trails of pottery and architecture along the way. The Vinka Civilization. The Vinka Civilization, also called the Danube Valley Civilization, was a Neolithic culture that lived in parts of southeastern Europe, including modern-day Serbia, Kosovo, Bulgaria, Romania, and Macedonia. Dating as far back as 7000 BC, the Vinka are widely considered the cradle of European civilization. They built some of the largest prehistoric settlements in the region, fueled a population boom, and further developed farming after it was introduced in the area. In addition to raising livestock and planting crops, the Vinka developed a plow for sowing their fields and used copper eating utensils some 1,000 years before they became common in Europe. They were not politically unified but maintained cultural solidarity by trading ritual objects over a long-distance network of settlements. Zoomorphic and anthropomorphic figures were defining features of the culture, with some scholars alleging that the collection of around 700 symbols that the Vinka used constitute one of the world's oldest writing systems. Layers of evidence found at some Vinka settlements indicate a period of occupation lasting over 1,000 years. Nobody knows why these sites were ultimately abandoned. Lost African Empire found. Archaeologists have recently found the remains of the long-lost African Christian kingdom of Alwa. Located in modern-day central and southern Sudan, it is the least studied of the three known medieval Nubian kingdoms. Its exact Christian origins are a mystery, but it's believed the people here practice a Christian rite inspired by the Egyptian Coptic Church. Out of dozens of archaeological sites that have been identified, only Alwa's capital, Soba, has been thoroughly excavated. Soba occupied a roughly square-mile area and was described as a town of extensive dwellings and churches full of gold and gardens. At its height, it may have supported a population of 30,000, according to archaeologists. This wealthy urban center was home to around 25 churches, including one that researchers believe was the last Egyptian-style temple to be built. Evidence suggests that the Alwa kingdom dates back to the 6th century and flourished for nearly 1,000 years. At its peak in 900 AD, it covered some 120,000 square miles, about the size of Italy. However, in 1504, it fell to Islamic forces, and the Christian kingdom was cut off from the European Christian nations. Excavations have revealed an enormous palace and very large churches. Archaeologists have also found extremely delicate pottery that was richly decorated, with all kinds of geometric designs and animals, all kinds of gold, textiles, Chinese porcelain, and tombs made of marble. Alwa was one of the last Christian kingdoms of the Nile Valley, and in a way, the last remnant of the ancient Egyptian civilization itself. As The Independent points out, most of ancient Egypt was taken over by the Romans, but Meroe and other places in Sudan remained, continuing the civilization. Entirely new species. Researchers looking through an isolated cave system in the country of South Africa made the most unexpected discovery imaginable. Not only did they accidentally find a new civilization, they found an entirely new species of human. As you may already know, modern humans evolved in what is today East Africa, sometime between 200,000 and 300,000 years ago. Archaeologists can't quite agree on the exact date. Before this time, there were plenty of human-like species known as hominins. In fact, there were hominins living alongside modern humans not more than a few thousand years ago. Nonetheless, it's still astounding when a new species is discovered. It was Dr. Lee Berger, a paleoanthropologist, who was exploring the Rising Star cave system when she accidentally came across the skeletal remains of the species she has named Homo naledi. In her very own words, she was speechless. Lying on the floor of the cave, not even covered in dirt, was a primitive, human-like ancestor. What did this ancient human look like? The experts say it would have appeared much like us from a distance, but close would have been very obviously different. This human alternative was short, it had a very small head, narrow shoulders, and facial features that would be unrecognizable to us. Even more amazing is the fact that the Homo naledi existed 300,000 years ago, at the same time as Homo sapiens. Mehrgarh. Located west of the Indus River Valley in modern-day Pakistan, the Mehrgarh archaeological site contains some of the earliest evidence of farming and herding in South Asia. Situated at the foot of the Bolan Pass, which has long served as a connection between the Indus Basin and the Iranian highlands, the 300-acre Neolithic settlement was established as early as 7000 BC, thousands of years before the Indus Valley Civilization emerged in the same region. Researchers have defined 8 different periods of occupation, with Mehrgarh's first inhabitants being semi-nomadic people who lived in mud brick homes, grew grains, and raised sheep, goats, and cattle. These pre-pottery people memorialized their dead with elaborate burials containing grave goods such as baskets, pendants, tools, and other objects made from seashells, limestone, turquoise, and sandstone. During the second phase of occupation, the civilization began making ceramic pottery and introduced the use of the potter's wheel, resulting in a noticeable uptick in production. The oldest human figurines in South Asia were discovered in large quantities at Mehrgarh, and the advent of copper technology helped to greatly expand the site between the 4th and 7th phases of occupation, from 5,500 to 4,500 years ago. The Mehrgarh people abandoned the original site sometime between 2600 BC and 2000 BC during the 7th period of occupation and resettled 5 miles away in the larger and more fortified town of Nowsharo. French archaeologists discovered Mehrgarh in 1974 while searching for the root of the Indus Valley Civilization. While little is known about the ancient people who lived there, it's clear based on the evidence that they were advanced for their time, that they engaged in deity worship, and that developments like agriculture and raising livestock do not have a single origin, but developed independently in various places. Thanks for watching! Which civilization was your favorite? Which one would you like to learn more about? Let me know in the comments below, and remember to subscribe if you haven't already. See you next time! Bye!